Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Think, Change, Repeat. I believe that this is episode 5, but it might be episode 6. I should have written that in my notes earlier. But today's date is May the 7th, 2026. And with me, I have my friend and yours, Billy Ray Valentine. Billy, how are you?
How are you doing? What's going on? Pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm very happy to have you. And we have done, you have come on the nights a time or two, and I was able to do a show where, because Karen and Jason were out of town, so you were the guest, and it was just me and you, and we struck up a friendship after that. So it's been very fun getting to know you and, harassing you from time to time. So
It's fantastic. I look forward to it. I'm like, what's Ashley up to? Let me go bother Ashley for a bit. It's
yeah,
cool. So yeah,
yeah.
I'm grateful, very grateful.
Same here. And as you know, we were talking about this off the air. I have to give you a hard time for not being a coffee drinker.
Yes, I know.
You're missing out. We're going to
I'm missing
continue
out
with
on a
that.
lot of things. I've missed out on so many things. I was telling you earlier, I never got tattoos, and I wanted to, but I never did, right? I did have an ear piercing at one point. And it was like with those cowbell ones. I had one of those. I thought I was punk rock for a second, but I
I'm sure.
never really drunk coffee up until very recently. But I want to incorporate. I want to do it, and I need your guidance at some point. So it'll
Listen,
happen.
Billy, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. I tried.
Tell
I
me about
gave
it.
you some recommendations. We're going to leave it at that for right
It's
now.
coming. It's
But
coming. I'll get there. I'll get there.
okay, so what we wanted to talk about today, we may get into some other stuff because as far as you being a podcaster in whatever we even call it anymore, whatever is going on,
Right.
you are somebody who has had several kind of iterations of your belief system.
Yeah.
And Tiger announced on his show that you're going to be on with him next week, and you're discussing the anatomy of a conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
So I'm very much looking forward to that. But and maybe we're going to get into this a little bit later. We'll see how the conversation goes. But something that I have heard you discuss many times since I've been listening to you is New York City. So not only is it your home, your love for that, but also that there was kind of like a smear campaign for many years. We often had New York and California be villainized for whatever reason. And I lived in upstate, and I will say that there are some things, from like the liberty perspective, as far as having more laws on the book, being more strict about small things. I found New York State was that way. And our property taxes were very expensive, things like that. But overall, I loved living in New York. I really loved it. I was in upstate, not the city. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about, as far as your experience, let's talk about why the smear campaign. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, it's happened for a long time. It's nothing new. It's just accelerated, and it's become more prominent in today's political culture with the culture war and all the stuff that's going on. So New York has become like the target of it. And I really didn't understand it, right? Like, I mean, I know it's been going on for a while, but it wasn't as, as large as it is nowadays, the hate, right? But it's from like, the alternative community,
Yeah.
the right, and not just the far right. A lot of the right, feel some type of way about New York City, but it's kicked up nowadays because of the culture war. So what New York is it's more of a symbol, right? And they hate what New York stands for, right? It's liberalism, right? We're liberals over here. So they hate that, right? It's a city, so they hate that about the city. I mean, they don't like cities, because it's total control, right? Or whatever it is that they talk about.
Yeah.
And a plethora of other things that New York represents, multiculturalism, and these are uh, pillars of what it is to be a New Yorker and what it is to live here. And it's the direct opposite of what's being pushed by the right. And, in particular, I mean, there's a lot of people that hold these views, so I don't want to center it on the far right. So I'm just going
Right.
to use the right in general, that they don't like New York for these reasons. Like, it started a while ago. You could trace it back to as far as Nixon, you know, when they did, because Nixon was big on law and order, and New York and big cities were crime ridden. You know what I mean? It was the crime in New York. Oh my God, the crime in these big cities. Or, whenever you think of evil, right, you think of the city. Like in these movies, like in any 80s movies, you would see, the decadence of the city, right?
Yes.
This what is it? This country girl, that would come into the city and she'd be completely ruined, right? She'd get into drugs and prostitution and all this other stuff, right? So this is what we've been painted as here, and some of it is true, but it's scale, and I
Right.
think that's what the operators on the right, have been very successful in clouding, is the scale of it, right? They look at it, it's an absolute worldview rather than a circumstantial one, or a situation one. It's an absolute worldview. So
Right. It's without nuance.
right,
Yeah.
and it's more than black and white, right? Go ahead.
Yeah. So I think that I've been thinking about this topic for a while because we had mentioned maybe we're going to talk about it. But one of the things that it reminded me of is this power of a mimetic, the power of a meme,
Mm-hmm.
really. Because especially during the pandemic times, like so many people were online, and this was really when the culture war was reaching a boiling point.
Right.
And at least personally, that's when I noticed it, that it was getting really, really bad from that. And then I thought that people had, it was like the meme. The meme was ablaze. And then that's what everybody was thinking about New York City.
Right.
And just that, like what you were discussing, that there was no nuance there. There was no situational. There wasn't really sitting down to compare like crime statistics or anything like that. And it just had this, like, as you had said, this association with a super liberal ideology and multiculturalism. But I find it interesting because there's a lot of that in cities in general.
Yeah.
Massachusetts is very close. Boston is not necessarily. I mean, obviously it has different characteristics than New York City, but it's still a big city in the
Right.
Northeast that has a lot of these things, right?
Right.
So I was curious about why New York was so heavily focused on. And then also, one of the things that I think is really interesting is that New York was America's sweetheart for a while, especially post 9/11. And I know you know this better than me, but it was like the center of everybody's attention. There was, people cared about New York, and oh, how time changes how perspectives change in 25 years from being America's sweetheart to this being some sort of like hosting a leper colony or something. Um, Talk to us a little bit about that, the changes that you saw, and was this very gradual in, somebody who's living there? Did you even notice it until it reached a boiling point?
I mean, yeah, it when it reached a boiling point, I mean, probably a little bit before that, but when it started, the culture war really heated up. And this is why we have the buffoon in chief as the president of the United States, because of the culture war in large part, but you said that everybody loved in New York, right? And it was, the apple of America's eye, or the world. And I would argue that it still is. And that's the reason why we are the center of all of this, right? And that's the reason why we are attacked so heavily. It's because it is the greatest city in the United States. It is the economic center of the world. You know what I mean? So, I mean, but by the greatest city in the United States, I mean, of course, that's relative, right? It depends on the person, the perspective. But what I mean is, it's by far the most famous It's LA is probably second to it, so that's what I'm trying to say. The most well-known around the world, everybody wants to come to New York, and it's still that way for a lot of people. Um, on the right, what they've done is they've weaponized these narratives so you hate your own country. And this is what I don't understand, right? You hate your own country. Here in New York, we're not worried about Alabama. We're not worried about Tennessee. We're not worried about anything. We're not like, oh, these guys in Tennessee, look what they're doing. No, we don't. But everybody else is like, oh, New York, look, there's more people that are quote unquote, and I put the quote unquote because it's essential, familiar with New York politics. And they have nothing to do with New York. They're talking about the mayor and how we're going to get what we deserve because we voted for Mamdani here. And I mean, it's all sorts of nonsense, and they're living in, I don't know, name a place,
somewhere
right?
else.
West Bubblefuck, wherever, right? That's where,
Yeah.
and it's all good. Like, live your life. It's the United States. Whenever I go to another state, I appreciate it for what it is. Whenever I go outside of the city and anywhere else, it's like, it's cool, right? It's a different experience, and it's still the United States. It still belongs to us, right? And we should be proud of that. But people that talk about, like, there's a lot of people, especially here in the alt media, and this is where we currently reside. So I see it often. Somebody in the chat just said, "Oh, New York used to be nice. New York is freaking fantastic. It's gorgeous over here. Of course we're gonna find areas that aren't very nice. But that's any major city. Doesn't mean
That's
the city is
everywhere. Even it doesn't even have to be major. Honestly, in small town, I'm from North Carolina. There's plenty of places that you could go that are not great, like that you need to avoid at times for whatever. Go ahead.
No. That's it, really. And so that's why we've been targeted so heavily, and that's the hatred for New York, is because it represents everything that quote unquote conservative culture doesn't like. And I would argue that most Republicans now or MAGAs are not conservative. They don't know anything about conservatism, but they're afraid in a sense for what we do here. They don't like the multiculturalism of it. And that's what New York has always been.
Right.
We've always been that. And then they're like, oh, everybody's leaving New York. People have been moving out of New York forever. And they're always replenished by new people, by young people from all over the United States, and by immigrants. And that's what gives us that special, je ne sais quoi, right? That special thing that everybody wants to come over here and experience. We have arguably the best cuisine in the world. This is Andrew Zimmer talking, not Billy Ray Valentine, although I will co-sign that. But Andrew Zimmer says, Queens by itself is the best cuisine in the world. Is that so many people come here, and they bring with them their culture, and we all learn from it. So it's like a hodgepodge. So it's beautiful to me. When I went to high school across the street from the World Trade Center. We're like, what a setting to have, right? You see the Twin Towers there. And I had white friends, Asian friends, like Chinese friends, Indian friends, Black friends, Latino friends, of course, from all over. The crew was everybody, so I didn't grow up with that, with a racist bone in my body, because I didn't know what it was. Everybody was so cool with one another, and so, but when you get older, you see things a bit differently. But the attack on New York is very unfair. But also, I would argue, especially to the conspiracy theorists out there, which we're all a part of, know when you're being manipulated, know when you're being worked. You should be proud of New York. We are one of the biggest economies in the world. New York by itself how much money we bring in for this country. You know, so be proud of New York. Be proud that everybody around the world wants to come here. Well, not so much anymore because of the buffoon, but maybe when he's gone, people will want to come back. It's a marvelous place, and so is LA. LA is beautiful. San Francisco is gorgeous. I love it there. And so many people are robbing themselves of an experience because of what they hear on the news. And that's not always accurate.
Yeah. So, and that's one of the things that I find really interesting. Like a lot of people now, I don't know if we've talked about this. Like, I'm definitely Appalachian mutt. So I don't know where my people came over, like when, where, whatever. But a lot of people's family did come over, at least starting in New York City and, kind of disseminated from there. So, for example, like I have some Italian family members and they came in at the time, so they come into the city, but this was when you needed to have other people living in the state that would kind of sign for you or represent you, and then you could come in and
Yeah.
go live with them. So that was sort of their lineage. And they ended up in, I think, Buffalo originally,
Right.
and then later to Arizona. But the point is that many people use New York City as a landing point to get into this country and then go on to be part of the United States. The other thing that I find really interesting is I thought you made a great point, because it's always been multicultural
Right.
and it was known for that. But now this is a caveat. I was not aware of culture war, politics, except for at a very basic level when I was, back during the 9/11 days. But I don't remember people denigrating New York for that at that time.
Right.
They seem to have no problem with it. Just in general at large. And I would say that most of the smack talk that I see about it, it's all online. Like no one in my regular life is like, "Oh, New York City sucks." Well, whatever. I mean, so
Good.
yeah. But I'm just curious about that. Like, when did that change? I guess it was just a very gradual change, but I find it to be very interesting that it truly was like people wanted to support New York. People wanted to, that they were proud of New York City 25 years ago. And
Yes.
then this meme became that, like, oh, it's unlivable there. It's this, that, and the other thing. But
Right.
I don't think I don't think it's fair for us to say that. And especially like I'm sitting here talking to somebody who lives there and you're saying, I love it here. I have been here my entire life and I still love it.
I was, while right before COVID, or during COVID, I don't remember exactly, but I remember I had interviewed Len Horowitz. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but
Yeah.
he's I don't know, he was a virus guy in the alt media. I don't know if he had any real credentials, but at the time I was like, and he's a cool guy, but I interviewed him and we were talking about COVID and what was going to happen. This is right before the lockdowns, right before the big time happened. We had no idea what was going to happen. We were just talking back and forth. And I came to a realization on air. I was like, you know what? I'm going to have to leave New York. And I was like, I don't want to leave New York, but I'm going to have to leave New York because all hell's going to break loose and I need to be secure and I need to be self-sufficient. And all these narratives that were fed to me, through a lot of the information that we live in this bubble that we're in. And I was like, man, I got to get out. And then when shit hit the fan, I had several people, great people in the alt media that offered me a lifeline. Ben Hameen, shouts to him. He's in Buffalo, but it's a totally different world up there.
Totally different.
Right.
Yes.
And he was like, come, you can come hang with me, bring your family. And another guy in Texas who's very well off, and he's like, Billy, man, come on, I'll meet you halfway. You can stay with me, and bring everybody. You can just ride it out. And I decided I wasn't going to do that. At the end of the day, I was like, you know what? I'm staying here. And I'm like, if anything happens, then I'm going down with the ship. I'm like, but I'm staying here, and we stocked up right where I'm sitting, actually, a couple of inches away, is stocked full of food. I mean, we had all types of like bags of rice and water and storable foods. I had stuff that I purchased from InfoWars. I was good for at least a year for a family of four. We were ready to go, and
Yeah.
and luckily we ended up eating that over time because, we didn't need so much of it, right? It wasn't as advertised in the alt media what went down, right? It was a little bit in between, maybe a lot less than in between, but it wasn't what I was told it was going to be. And I realized at that point, although I mean I've always loved my city, and I have a love affair with New York. There's nothing like it, and it's part of the reason why, or it's in its entirety, why I am talking to you right now, because of what happened on 9/11. And I loved those towers. I still do. They were so beautiful, Ashley. I don't know if you ever got to see them.
Nope, never IRL.
One of my favorite things to do was take the Staten Island ferry into New York, into Manhattan. And to see as a kid, I was 6, 7, 8 years old, just to see those towers, just pulling up. We pull up into the city, the Statue of Liberty's over there, and those two beautiful, beautiful buildings. I'm like, my God, and they were taken away from me, so that's why I'm here, because of that. So it's because of this city that I am involved in this, because I wanted to find out the truth of all of that. And that's what really got me rolling.
Yeah.
But I realized that during COVID that I didn't want to leave New York, that I never really wanted to leave, but I didn't have to leave New York.
Yeah.
I didn't have to leave. And a lot of the culture war, makes it like, oh man, you're fully controlled, you're domesticated, and I would repeat the same verbiage about where I was. I wasn't ready to go. That's all. So I stayed here. It's the best decision I ever made. I don't know if I'll ever leave New York. I might buy something somewhere else, but I will always have something here. It's literally, I can't think of anywhere else to live. I can go downstairs right now and get anything I want. What time is it? It's 9 o'clock here, just about. But if I want to go downstairs at 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, I can get anything that I want.
Cup of coffee?
Yes. If I were to want such things, actually, I could have a cup of coffee.
If you were.
Eventually, but hopefully, I'll do that. But there's so many marvelous things about this city. And now my towers are gone, but they put up the Freedom Tower, and it took me a little bit of time to get used to that thing. It's beautiful, but it's not what it was, and it'll never be what it was. The complex looks gorgeous, now, but it's still awesome to pull up to New York City, and I got my kids with me now, and I'm like, take a look, and I show them, I'm like, people die to get here. People dream about being here. You're born here. You're from New York. Be proud of it. No matter what these people say,
right?
You be proud of where you're from, and everybody should be proud of where they're from. It's what makes you you.
Yep.
I am incredibly proud to be a New Yorker. On top of that, I'm incredibly proud to be from the Bronx. And so when I take my kid around, I always quiz them. Like, what's that over there? Like, what's that building? Tell me what that is. What do you know about this or whatever? We're at a certain intersection, and I was like, who came from here? Who was born here or whatever? And I want them to know about where they're from.
Yeah, I love that.
And my kids are very proud New Yorkers as well. Come here during Christmas. It's a beautiful place, especially for all the people that say this is the most decadent city in the world. This is the most Christmas city in the world, with the exception of some places in Germany, I think, that really do it up for Christmas. But over here, this is where it's at, for Christmas. A summer in New York is like nowhere else. It's just the greatest. but you see a lot of people in it, not a lot of people in the chat, but some of the people in the chat are already saying, I'll never go to New York. I think it was SMU Haskey. He's like, I would have gone a long time ago, but not now. He said, but there were other people that were a little bit more, I don't know what word to use, but just a little bit more, not insulting, but in that vein, like, no, New York is one of the wickedest places in the world. I'm like, what makes it so wicked?
Yeah, which is why I'm glad that we're having this conversation, because I want to, in a lot of the other conversations that you have with people, that you are coming from a different angle a lot of times, and that's okay. That's one of the things that I want. That's the whole point of my show. That's the whole point of like my entire belief system is think, change, repeat, right? So that is like for us to think about things and to adjust our paradigm as needed and ask questions. So that's why I wanted to have this discussion. And I know that you, at some point, you may still have that conversation with Charlie Robinson, because because he kind of had some of these same ideas, or like, it's not what it used to be or whatever. But I would argue that, I don't know, probably nowhere in the United States is like it used to be. Once you go through something like, the pandemic, and some people's behaviors and views towards other humans are fundamentally changed. Like for people to be scared of each other, being around each other, think that takes time for that to go away. If it does, I don't know. So there's some fundamental change, I think, that probably happened to a lot of us. But I also think that this is something that you were talking about this weekend, as far as being programmed, like that I am not programmed in the same way. Or maybe this is when you're talking to Weezy, but I believe that I'm still being manipulated. So it's up to us to kind of figure that out.
Right.
But I wanted to have this conversation to talk about why this place is so important to you, and why, like what message you would want other people to have. And this is something like during Christmas, we did share some pictures of, lovely things, and it is beautiful. And I think that it's also a testament to say, like, you at having children, I don't think that you feel fearful for your children to go out and about in the city, or your mother, or whatever, right? Like, talk to us about the safety changes in that.
Well, that's a really good point that you bring up, because I want to touch on the COVID aspect of it and how it changed New York, but I want to come back to the safety. Please keep me honest, because once I start going, I forget about other things. But during COVID, it was tough, right? And a lot of businesses shut down that never came back, and there was a lot of that here in New York. Crime spiked up a little bit. But I would say, and this is one of the beautiful things about New York, is that people here are very resilient, and we're tough. People are tough here, and they've New York is as back as it's gonna be. The restaurants are packed all the time. I have to go out on Mother's Day. I'm gonna film stuff and send it to you. Not that I don't anyway, but I'm gonna film some stuff. I mean, there are lines outside to get into some of these restaurants. It's crazy. The shopping is back. It's vibrant again. The summer is popping off.
The energy,
right? And people aren't afraid to be next to one another. You still see people with masks, of course, not half as much as before. But again, we have a big Asian population, and they've been wearing masks since before the pandemic. Because of what they're used to in China. I mean, the Chinese people that come from there or whatever, not Asians in totality. But yeah, like, so you'll see some of that, but they're not afraid to be, well, for the most part. We got a lot of people here in New York, and some people, I'm talking in generalities here. Most people are ready to go. They're ready to live their life. People are out here making money, trying to catch a come up, get on another level, but also have fun and enjoy themselves in their own city. And there's so much to do, so we're kind of I don't think we are what we were before. There's been some changes, but I do think we are as close to being back as we're going to be. We'll never be the same.
Right.
We're different because of it, but it's good. It's a good kind of different. We're doing really well here in New York nowadays, and there are people, of course, you're going to find the naysayers everywhere. But I would invite anybody to come. And Charlie came to New York, and we spent some time, and he went to Times Square. I was with him, and he saw a crack addict, or a meth addict or something. Dude was strung out. I guess maybe he doesn't see that where he's from, and he saw some rats. And I mean, he's like, this city's falling apart at the seams. He said, I'm like, Charlie, chill, dude. I'm like, what do you mean? We're clearly not falling apart at the seams. We're still making tons of money. There's still more millionaires here, than anywhere in the United States, maybe. We're making tons of money. The place looks beautiful 9 times out of 10. Of course, it's dirty. New York is dirty. Right? But they're working on that. It's not perfect. I'm not saying the place is perfect. If you're going to look for something to criticize, you're going to find it. But that's the same everywhere.
Everywhere.
Right. So what I'm saying is, don't let yourself be manipulated. Like, well, I think the same person in the chat, I'm sorry, brother or sister, I forget what the name is, but they were saying, if I don't know why New York is so wicked, they feel sorry for me. I'm like, you know what? Like, I feel sorry for you that you'll never experience such a great thing like New York City. I want to experience Paris. I've never been to Europe. I want to go see Paris. I want to go see London. I don't care what these people are saying about London. I want to go experience it. And I'm sure I'm going to find great people there. I want to go see the pyramids of Giza. And I'm sure I'm going to find great people there. I'm not going to let any of these narratives of what they're painting Paris to be or what they're painting London to be or any of that. I'm not going to let that get in the way of me going to experience these places, about what other people are thinking because they don't like the way people conduct their lives there. Hold on for a second, Ash. Go ahead.
Yeah, no worries. I totally understand. I have the occasional dog bark or cat visit, as you know. So, I am curious about because not to go back or dwell on 9/11, but it's very interesting to me that there was not this like conservative liberal, like Rudy Giuliani was the mayor.
Right.
At that time.
Right.
And so since then, his reputation has obviously taken a very hard hit. But at that time, he was the mayor of the city during this horrible crisis. And he came out looking very good for the most part, a conservative person.
Right.
So and I know with the introduction of Donald Trump into the picture and the culture war, I know that was part of it, but I just don't really understand, like, when did all of that change as far as the opinion, or when was like the mimetic war on New York City? Like, why?
Yeah, it happened during the culture. It happened. It kicked off during 2016, 2017, during the rise of MAGA. And of course, during COVID, that's when it became boom. Like it became what we know it to be today. Like there was always anti-New York, anti-liberal sentiment, anti-multiculturalism. These things were a thing, but they were, not half as prominent as they are now, right? So that's when it happened. It was social media, and it was the weaponization of all of these things. And it's something called a availability bias, right? Where people in a bubble are given this idea, right? And they take one thing and blow it out of proportion, right? Oh, trannies, blow it way out of proportion. There's trannies everywhere, or, they're going to teach my child how to read or some nonsense. Like, I mean, dumb crap, that there was a tranny reading to somebody at a library somewhere. And they're like, it's happening all over the United States. It's the end of the world, right? It's availability bias, because you have these ideas or these examples that are fed to you by whatever your news source is. And here in the alt media, we like to say we don't get anything from the mainstream. But there would be a Fox News or right-leaning outlets that most of these pundits that you listen to in the alt media get their stuff from. So they give it to you, and then you guys repeat it. And, New York is falling apart. New York is whatever. So an example of availability bias is for example, on 9/11, right? Planes were hijacked, right? And they were flown into the World Trade Center. They blew up. People died. It was a big thing. Everybody knows about it. So after that happened, people were hesitant to get on planes, right? Because they were afraid because of what just happened on 9/11. Although the odds of another plane being hijacked were probably non-existent. But they were afraid of it, because of that. That's what availability bias is. So that's what they do here in New York, to New York, I should say. There is, there was the COVID era where everybody was sitting at home, right? People didn't really know why, and people were looking for answers. And while they were looking for those answers, it was all on social media, and they got the answers from whatever confirmed their biases, right? Whatever sounded right to them. I was the same, right? It's like, oh, okay, I'm not going to listen to mainstream media because they're full of shit, right? So I'm not listening to that. So I'm going to go listen to Podcaster X. That sounds about right. So a lot of things came out of that, but New York hate definitely escalated as a result of it.
Yes.
They're talking about listen, and people get triggered. Even on America Unplugged, I mentioned Zoran Mamdani. That's it. And people get triggered automatically. The stuff that came out about this guy? They were saying that he was a jihadist, right? Sharia law, that New Yorkers forgot about 9/11 because they elected a Muslim. Imagine the ultra racism that needs to go into a statement like that. And this is why I'm proud of New York. You mentioned Rudolph Giuliani. I wasn't a Giuliani fan. I got patted down at gunpoint several times and I was a kid.
Yes.
Okay. Several times under Rudolph Giuliani. He did clean up the place, right? And I think he got 2 terms here. So it wasn't, and this is what I also admire about New York. We're a liberal place, but we're more like, what sounds right to us? What are you gonna give us? So that's why Mamdani got in at all cost. Because people were outspending him left and right. But people talk about, show me your enemies. Donald Trump has all the right enemies. Look at Mamdani's enemies. Look at who got together to make sure this guy didn't take office, but he did, because he had the right message. So Rudolph Giuliani had that. We had Mayor Bloomberg here, whom I didn't particularly like either, but he was in here forever, and he did some good things. And we talk about crime, right? So that was one of the main reasons, that was one of the main weapons used against New York, saying, the crime over there is crazy. It hasn't been that way in a long, long time, but people hold on to that, right? Because they were told that, again, the availability bias, they were told that, so they hold on to that idea. Because everything in New York is the worst, right? I mean, the prostitutes are here, drug addicts are here, the white collar crime, blue collar crime, the gangsters, they got the Latin gangsters, they got the Italian, everybody. I mean, this is bedlam, right? So it's clearly not the case, right? My kids walk freely throughout New York, and of course, you have to have your eyes about you. You have to have your wits about you. It's a big city. There are people that are out to hurt you, right? That's just the way it is. But that doesn't. It's not that doesn't condemn New York as a whole. There are very good people here. That want to get along with everyone else and want to learn from one another, and that's mostly what we do here. I love it. I can't say enough good things about New York.
Yeah, well, I'm glad that we're having this conversation to at least maybe, and I'm not trying to get anybody to change their mind, right?
Mhm.
But I wanted to have the conversation and at least provide people with a little bit of food for thought because if they listen to you, then this is a subject that comes up a lot. And so I thought it was worth expounding on that and maybe giving people a little something to mull over and think about as
Yeah.
far as what does this actually mean? And then not even specifically for New York City, but just thinking about how a meme can affect your view on a place. And I definitely think that that was part of the meme, and I find it to be very interesting that we sort of had this changing view for a lot of people from the days of 2001 until 2020. And there definitely was a lot of rhetoric as far as like the crime is up, and there was even, I think, some instances that were intentionally and this, I don't know, I'm not 100% sure what the motivation could have been, and that's something I'm still trying to figure out, but there were certainly some instances that were propped up and fed to people from the algorithm,
Right.
different conflicts on the subway,
Right.
showing people, and who knows if these are even real. I don't know. I had a realization some time ago that I only see this type of stuff online. You see, like, people fighting on the subway or a crazy person on the subway or somebody just randomly getting punched in the head or whatever. And
Mhm.
a lot of that was associated with New York City.
Right.
And then I started stepping back and I was like, okay, so this is, if you look at this stuff, this makes you think that the entire place, the entire country has lost its mind.
Right. Right.
But then I was like, but then if I go out, do I see any of this stuff at all? No, I do not see it.
Yeah.
Very rarely.
Right.
Now, there obviously weird things happen everywhere. I Little John knows this. When I was working in my first job out of school, I
Right.
was working at a bank in Western North Carolina near where Little John lives, and I was robbed at gunpoint.
Yeah.
That's near Asheville, North Carolina.
It can happen anywhere.
It can happen anywhere. Then, not long ago, there was some sort of domestic violence situation at the neighborhood right across the street. That person discharged their weapon several times, and it sounded like it was right outside of my bedroom window. That was
God bless.
just right here, right? I saw a mouse in my garage the other day. Okay. So these things, like, it literally could be anywhere, right?
Right. Right. Right.
So I did, start to think like, this, why are we being shown this stuff? Why are we being shown this stuff to make us think like this
Yeah.
one little
Right.
glimpse of something is the whole picture? It's not. It's
Absolutely.
a pixel.
100%, Ashley. 100%. Like, all right. So I will say though, you get on the subway, you're gonna see some shit, right? That there's crazy people on the subway for sure. Most New Yorkers know to avoid them. Oh, that's that crazy person, and they go somewhere else, or just ignore them altogether. That does happen, right? There is homelessness. There is, the place is dirty, right? All of that stuff is true. But like you said, there's snippets of things that are highlighted and blown up into something that it's not. The entire place is not like that. I mean, we massive tourism here in New York 9 times out of 10, not lately because of the big orange buffoon, but this is what I mean. Like, people are still coming here. They're not coming here because it's a war zone.
Right.
They're coming here because it's a sight to see. All these celebrities live here. They walk down the street and no one gives a shit. I saw Paul McCartney in the street. Just saw him walking with some blondes, tall blonde. Had to be about 30 years younger than him.
Oh, that might have been when he was married to Heather, or is this recently?
No. This was some time ago, about 10 years ago, probably. Maybe a little bit longer than
definitely Heather. Yep.
that. And he walked out of this limousine. I'm like, typically I just walk by people. Like, I bump into celebrities all the time, but it's Paul McCartney. Right. So I just turned, I'm like, it's Paul McCartney. I'm like, yo, Paul.
Yes.
What's up, mate? And he just kept walking. I asked him for a picture, I think, because it's Paul. Normally I wouldn't do this.
but
But I
this
asked
is
for a
like an
picture.
extreme level
Yeah.
of, yeah.
Right. I was like, hey, Paul, can I get a picture? He's like, I don't do pictures, man. And then he took off. I'm like, all right, babe, peace, and it was cool. But they walk down here and they don't get bothered. That's why they like to be here. Because everything is everything to most people here. It's just like, oh, look, that's that guy that was in the series or whatever. Boom. My son bumped into I don't know if you watch The Pit, or if anybody watches The Pit. It's a series on, I think it's on HBO. I don't know.
HBO.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And my son bumped into one of the doctors there, and he noticed that at a Chinese takeout spot by his school. And he's like, hey, aren't you the guy from The Pit? And he's like, yeah. And they started talking and they took a picture together. I thought it was very cool.
Nice.
I'm gonna send it to
Yeah.
you. Yeah,
Yeah,
they
please
thought
do.
I thought now he's my favorite actor on the thing because of that, because he took care of my
Right.
son. He's very nice.
Yeah.
But this is a gorgeous place. But let's take New York out of it. America is a gorgeous place. Wherever you live is a gorgeous place. It's what makes you. Be proud of it, represent it, and also this is your country. It's incredible how they're like, oh, America first, but New York sucks. America first, but San Francisco. They came up with this, again, the meme or whatever, this perception that there's crap on every corner in San Francisco. And I flew
there was
there.
a poop map.
Right. And I went there to with the impression that this is what I was going to find, because I had never been there before at that time. This was like, I don't know, 5 years ago. And of course, it couldn't be further from the truth. Yeah. Is there homelessness out there? Yeah. Yeah, there's homelessness out there. It's a big city, but it's a beautiful, charming city. And I think so many Americans, just like so many people in conspiracy culture, are robbing themselves from the experience of a lifetime, right? We only live once, right? But so much in conspiracy tells us what we should not do. Don't listen to music because it's demonic. It's demonic, so don't listen to music. Don't do Rockefeller medicine. It's gonna kill you, and they're trying to kill you with eugenics, right? Don't engage in the banking system. All of this stuff, and it only serves to hold you back 9 times out of 10. It's good to know about deficiencies in all of these areas and use it to your advantage, but to withdraw art altogether is a problem, I think.
Yeah, I think it goes back to nuance, because I agree. Now, especially if we're talking about Rockefeller medicine, we can get into that, Billy. But I agree that
Go ahead.
I'm pretty hard on that situation. But overall, I agree that what we can do for sure is recognize that while we maybe pre-COVID or like whatever we even want to say, like pandemic, before the wheels are really coming off, that we had these programmed kind of ideas or these like set ideas. And then we had the introduction of whatever alternative views or alternative thinking or alternative news or podcast or whatever that is, that started to help us or get us thinking about things in a different way. But I think what we have to be careful about is to continue thinking about things instead of just accepting a narrative. And I am guilty about this for sure.
We all
but
are.
This is something that I'm trying to keep in mind about what the algorithm fed me. Right. In order to make me kind of make a decision for something that I had never experienced for myself. And speaking of cities, so it's honestly like dystopian, or like, I don't know. I consider it sort of like, decay porn, basically.
I love that.
So that you would see these videos of like 1 or 2 neighborhoods in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
All the time.
Right.
It looked like a scene out of The Walking Dead. quite literally, because this is like pairing of fentanyl and trank, which is like an animal sedative. It's not an opioid. Anyway, but that's how you kind of get that fent lean that makes you look like a zombie, right? But then I talked to my friend who is in Jersey, but his sister lives in Philadelphia, brother lives in Philadelphia, and I was like, what is it like there, really? because so probably maybe like 2017, 2018, had to be 2018. I went to a Garbage, the band Garbage. They were doing like a 20-year anniversary tour. Saw them in Philadelphia,
That's
right?
dope.
I went, my goal was to eat as much cheesesteak as I possibly could
Awesome.
in a 24-hour period. So it wasn't as much as I wanted at the time, but it was enough.
Yeah, yeah,
So, but it was great.
yeah.
I did see a rat
Of
when
course,
I
you're
was
gonna see those
walking,
things, right?
but overall, I really liked it.
Right.
And then in these last many years, I'm seeing this decay porn about what does Philadelphia look like, and it looks like The Walking Dead. And I said, so what's the deal? Is it really like that there? And he was like, one or two streets, like one or
Yeah.
two areas,
Right. Right. Right.
And so I think that it's just a good reminder, and I don't want people to feel like I'm preaching to them. I'm not. I am guilty of any of this stuff, and I am trying to just constantly reframe and reconsider like where I stand on things that I
Mhm.
may have been wrong about. And that was one of the things that I had this realization after listening to a lot of your shows and having you talk about how beautiful New York is and how much you love it there. And that's kind of weird, but it's kind of a hot take.
Unfortunately, right?
In today's day and time, right? It's
Where
weird.
we're at, right?
Yeah,
Because it's not a hot take here.
right.
It's commonplace here,
Yeah,
and there's people from all over the world, but all over the nation that come and relocate here. And
yeah.
they want to be here and they love it here, right? I went to DC about a month ago, or maybe a month or two ago. I'm not sure. Which is another gorgeous, gorgeous place, by the way. Contrary to popular belief that it's falling apart, like Trump was saying, not the case at all. It's beautiful. DC is gorgeous. I love DC. I take cabs everywhere. So I got an Uber, sat down, and I always talk to my Uber drivers wherever I am because I want to find out about them and where they're from. I think it's cool. I try to pick out where they're from, just by their accents or the way they
Yeah.
look, they're normally fairly receptive to it and laugh or whatever. But there was this one guy uh from Yemen driving me, and he was telling me, how disappointed he was, because his kids were asking him, Dad, this is not what you told me America was, because of Trump and the Trump administration and what they're doing to all of them. And they're in fear. And he's like, this is not what you told me America was. And he goes, well, he's like, give it a couple of years. He's like, I believe in this place. He's like, I love it here. But he came from New York and was working in DC. I forgot why he had to relocate, but he was telling me, he's like, you know what? I'm dying to go back to New York. He's like, once you've been there and you get adjusted, and that doesn't mean it's for everybody. It's not for everybody. Some people can't hack it here, and I
Right.
totally get it. It's not a knock, right? That, oh, you can't do it. It's not for everybody. But he was like, I'm dying to get back to New York. And people pick me out like a sore thumb. They're like, oh, you're from New York, aren't you? Everywhere. So I can't deny it if I wanted to. But yeah, people love it here. So it's not a hot take here. It's not a hot take in a lot of places. It's a hot take for Christian nationalists. It's a hot take for MAGA. It's a hot take for some, not all, that consider themselves conservatives, because there are moderate conservatives that get it, that understand. Just because they're conservative doesn't mean they hate New York.
Right.
But it's a hot take in the bubble that we currently reside, of course, and that's why I catch so much shit. He's a liberal from New York. What does he know? Oh, he lives in the belly of the beast. Because if you're a hardcore conservative Christian, a Bible thumper literalist, this is literally hell. This is hell to them. It's like, oh my God, gay people, it's over. And it's like, and you live there? How do you do it? How do you live? And most people here don't care. And that's the
Right.
beauty about the place.
Yeah.
We're just like, oh, you're gay. What do I care? You're trans.
Right.
Okay. Go about your business. Let's go have a
Yeah.
beer. I don't drink, but I'll have some water. You know,
I was gonna say, I know you better not say, let's go have a coffee
let's
for
go have a
sure.
coffee. I'm gonna reserve that for you when you're up here. I'm like, yo, let's go have a coffee, Ash.
Let's do it. Yeah, so something else I wanted to touch base about is this idea of staying where you're planted in the face of, like, what we were talking about, this fear that I think most of us were feeling.
Yeah,
Maybe
yeah.
not everybody, but a lot of us, as far as during the pandemic, even if you were not worried about the virus necessarily, the societal changes, lockdowns, people being called, what's the word? Like non-essential.
Mm,
There's so much crazy stuff that was happening during that time. And it was truly an insane time to be a witness to. So, what made you ultimately decide, I'm not leaving? Like, we're just going to stick it out. And it's not exactly the same, but I see this in a lot of ways of people that are in, um, you know, like hurricane prone areas, or whatever. Like, a storm is coming and you know it, and you do what you can do. And some people have the ability to leave and they choose not to. They stay home. They want to be in their home knowing that there is some risk potentially with that. Even though the odds may not be great that something bad is going to happen, but it's possible.
right. Right. No, I decided I wasn't gonna leave. It's just I love it here. My mother's here, my grandmother's here. Um, my son didn't want to leave. He's like, I don't want to go anywhere. And and I had to hedge my bets because I was scared. I was scared. Coming from where we come from, this was it, right? When that hit, I was like, man, it's over. This is it. This is what Alex Jones has been telling me about. This is what, all of these people in the alt media have been telling me
This is
about for
go
years and years
time.
and years. It's lockdown. Let's get ready. It's going to get real. Troops down the street, bodies piling up. Didn't happen. It was soft martial law in a way, but I got out. I was running every day. I think I was the most fit I ever was during COVID. I was running every day. Not a soul in sight. I have pictures. I got to find them, but I took pictures of Times Square. I stood in the middle of the street in Times Square. Nobody, not a soul there. And I took pictures of that. I went all over the place. Nothing really stopped me, and I was like, this isn't that bad. I'm like, ain't nobody around and I get to do whatever I want. This is fantastic. The first couple of days it was scary because all the stores were closed and we had to wait outside in a line. And I'm like, well, yo, what is going on here? It's crazy. But then it loosened up very quickly. It wasn't,
Yeah.
Then there's like, you have to wear a mask to come into the supermarket. So I put on a mask. I didn't want to wear the mask, but I was like, you know what? I'm putting it on. You know what else we did? I flew down to Florida several times during the pandemic. I went to Disney World. It was empty. Fantastic. I got on everything at least 3 times. It was great. I had a great time. I wasn't afraid of it. But I will tell you this. Prior to that, I went on a streak, like I think 13 years without a fever, without getting a fever. And days after the lockdown took place, I was a day or two. I was working part-time because I had quit my full-time job and I went back to school and I was working at a part-time job at a paint store here in the city on 86th Street. It's no longer there, but that's where I was working. And they laid everybody off. They were like, we're sorry, but we can't. Everything is shutting down. We'll call you back when we come back. And they did, by the way, which was very nice of them. But I remember sitting on my couch and I wasn't feeling right. I was like, yo, I don't feel good, And my wife comes over and touches me. She's like, yo, dude, you're running a fever. I'm like, what? I'm like, no, it's impossible. I don't do fevers.
I don't do fevers.
Right. I'm like, come on, what are you talking about? And then, I took my temperature and lo and behold, boom, I was running a fever. And ever since, I've been I've gotten them more often. It's still not a regular occurrence, but I got them a few times, whereas before it wasn't a thing at all. So
Yeah.
I will tell you that I didn't go to get COVID tested, because I was like, nah, I don't want to have anything to do with these hospitals at that time. I don't want nothing. I don't want to have anything to do with them. So I didn't go to get COVID tested, but I was never afraid of it.
Right.
I was never like, oh man, this is it. I was more afraid of the reaction, of the government reaction and what was going to happen. I was
Yeah.
afraid of that,
Yeah.
but I wasn't afraid of the virus itself. So thank the Lord for that. But I got to do a lot of things in New York, and then I quickly found out that there was no need for me to leave New York. I wasn't gonna leave. I had made up my mind already. But I would go visit my mom, and my stepfather. They needed help. I would be able to do that. I went to school. We did it online, and then I would go out and get a smoothie down the block. We have a smoothie guy, a guy from Yemen, another guy from Yemen that he started a smoothie shop. 25 years old, great friend of mine now. I used to go there every day during the pandemic. To the point that every Friday he gave me a smoothie for free because I was always there.
Yeah.
I had a good time, to be
Yeah.
honest. It was fine. So it wasn't a chore being here during that time.
Right.
And that changed my perspective on so many things. 2016, Trump and the pandemic. It's changed my perspective on so many things, but it changed my perspective on the city itself. And I was, like I said at the top of the hour, at the beginning of the show, I was like, I may have to leave New York. Now I'm like, I never want to leave.
Yeah.
And I don't have to leave New York. And if shit goes down, it's going to go down whether I'm in New York or anywhere else. And I'm going to have to deal with that. Right.
Yep.
Moving isn't going to change. It might change the scenery, but it won't change whatever's coming for me.
Right.
Right. I'm going to have to deal with it. Right. So, and if for some reason, God forbid, I die tomorrow here in New York from a stray bullet or something, I don't want to hear anyone saying, oh, look at Billy. He was talking all this stuff about New York and now he's dead. You see that? No, that would happen anywhere.
We won't say that, Billy.
Well, I'm just saying in general,
And
it would happen. It would happen anywhere. This is a reality of things.
Yes.
Right. So if it happened to me tomorrow, what would people say? They're like, oh, look at him. And he got what he deserved. That's not the point. That's not what this is about. Right. I don't want to die, but I'm ready for it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think, depending on where you're at on that spectrum, but there is, at least in my take, and what my mom said too, because she got a lot of pressure from a family member during the pandemic to take the injection, right? And she said, I just said, I am making the decision not to do that. I mean, she and I were more on the same page, and she said, if it is my time, it's my time.
Right.
Period.
Right.
So I certainly subscribe to that. And but it brings up an interesting point for me, because I think so much around this conversation about leaving or staying or not doing this or not doing that is based in fear.
Yeah.
So do you think that there is part of us that has been captured, or like some
absolutely.
part of our brain that has been activated that keeps us in this fearful place to limit our...
Actually, all of this is based in fear. All of this that we're involved in, all of it. And there's a lot of well-meaning people here, a lot of people that preach the right message, but it all comes from a place of fear here in the alt media. That's what it is. People can try to mask it and be like, oh, it's about hope. It's about hope from what? What do you have hope from? Oh, it's about, getting better and helping your fellow man. What do you want to help them from? Because it's the fear of what's going to happen to us that keeps us here. Right? All of this is fear-based, all of it. And that's the biggest problem with the alt media and with people that subscribe to these alternative theories and with conspiracy theory. It stems from a place of negativity. It's paranoia. I am not preaching like Ashley would say. I'm not. I am that. I am you. right? I'm paranoid out the ass about a lot of this stuff. And then I found out that all that was doing was holding me back. I was like,
Yeah.
man, that's all it's doing. I appreciate everything, the good, the bad, and the ugly. I appreciate it and I thank God for it. When I'm sick and I'm in pain, I'm like, thank you, God. This really sucks. But I'm happy for the experience because I'm getting to learn from this. What happens afterwards, I don't know, but I dig it. Thank you so much. When something dope is happening, I'm like, man, this is awesome. Thank you, God. This is freaking amazing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's I just appreciate every single thing that I get,
Yeah.
whether it's good or bad. But in the alt media, you get held back. It's a mental chain that holds you back because whatever, fill in the blank, because the New World Order, right? Because of the Illuminati, because of the deep state, because of the Luciferian demons that are taking over your body. Oh, you name it, right? That's what this is about. And it's a hard pill to swallow for a lot of people, but I would urge you to pick up a glass of water and help it go down because you'll be a lot better after the fact.
Well, so this is my own personal experience that I think could tie in with this. During COVID times, I was really, really stressed out, not because I was worried about getting sick, but I was worried about the direction that I saw the government heading. There was no, from my point of view at that time, there was no in retrospect there was, but at the time I felt like there's no insulation for being from, the South. The people that were supposed to have, especially like in Western, like in the Appalachian Mountains, like this kind of fighting spirit, this like distrust of authority,
Yeah.
that they're kind of known for that. And I was like, and of course, like you have more people that are like, I I'm gonna have guns, I'm gonna protect my family, like this sort of like independent whatever, this individualism maybe is the right word. And then I felt like I just saw people falling for it. I mean, just everywhere, right? So I was really upset about that people weren't asking questions. And so it was a really isolating time for people that were asking questions, right? And this was a way to get people kind of online to find each other that shared your viewpoint or that were also having a difficult time with what you were seeing. But what I noticed is that I spent so much time, the same as you, preparing, worried that we don't have enough. Like, what if we got to grow our own food or whatever? And I'm being so angry and so fearful. And then finally, I got to the point where I could not do that anymore. I could not hold on to it anymore. I just had to say, you know what? I think that we have made it through at least the worst of that, and I have so much to have gratitude for
Yeah, man.
in my life.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
much. And it reminds me of like what you were saying of trying to always practice gratitude. Now, am I good at that? No. I'm not trying to say that I'm not like, oh, I'm just really stressed out. You know, my
Right.
cats got into a fight today. I'm not saying that, but I want to do that. I want to practice more gratitude and be grateful for the time that we have here now.
Yeah.
And yes, we may be presented with challenges, but the thing that bothered me the most was how much time I spent not enjoying things,
Right.
like really good things, because I was scared and frustrated and worried,
Yeah.
and like angry about government overreach or whatever that is. Like I wasted too much time
Yeah. Yeah.
doing that, and I don't want to live like that anymore. And I feel myself sometimes still in where we're at now, right? With the conflict in Iran and the potential um like issues that can cause for us, it's concerning to me. But I like that we're having this conversation because it's been a refresher. And again, like I don't want to preach to people either. I hope that maybe if you hear this that you kind of maybe think about things or reflect back on how you felt and how you changed during that time, and maybe I don't want to say worried for nothing, but like we have to find a balance of
That's it. Yeah.
enjoying the time that we have while still being aware of, current
Yeah.
events to an extent.
Of course. No,
So,
absolutely. 100%. We have to find that middle ground, right? We can't let life pass us by because we're busy afraid of our shadows, you know.
yeah,
And that doesn't mean we don't acknowledge that our shadow, may be harmful, just, it's not, but you know what I mean? That something is bad, right? There are bad things. There are bad people. We need to take steps to preserve our mental sanity, our physical fitness, and our families. We need to do these things, right? We need to prepare. Like you said, with Iran, all this, shit is hitting the fan over there, and inevitably it's going to affect us. So we need to prepare. We need to do these things, but that doesn't mean we stop living our lives, and it doesn't mean that we live in fear, because you don't know how much time you have left.
right.
Right. So you want to hold on to those moments and appreciate it and make the most out of them. So that's what I try to do. And I still there's several things that I haven't pulled the trigger on because I'm in part afraid, to do certain things, so I totally get it. I've just realized that I have a problem. Getting over the problem is something else. And I'm trying to do that. And I have done that in some capacity, but I have a ways to go, but I realize that, this isn't beneficial for me. These people aren't who I thought they were. And they're shitting on New York at that. And fuck that. I'm like, you're shitting on my home. And I freaking love it here. And I'd love to host you. I'm like, come to New York. I'd love, when Ashley comes to New York, she's not going to pay for a damn thing. It's going to be freaking dope. We're going to have a hell of a time.
I'm going to make Billy go ice skating with me.
What, ice skating?
Yeah.
Is that what you said?
Yes, I said.
Oh my God! Last time I went ice skating, I had to use one of those like freaking penguin things.
It looks like a walker.
I God, whatever it is. And I went ice skating in Trump's old ice skating rink. It used to be named after Trump. It's not anymore, but it's a nice ice skating rink. It's in Central Park.
Yeah,
really pretty. But I have to hold those things. We'll do it, but don't lose any respect for me when I bust my ass in front of you. Okay?
Oh no, I will have an ice walker as well. I'm not trying to fracture a wrist or something. So yeah,
that's good. I'm sorry. Come on, Ashley.
That is. Oh yeah, I was just gonna say that's a good point. That I feel like you always are talking to like people that come on your show or people that are on AU. You're always telling people like, "Hey, come to New York. We'll meet up. We'll go. Have dinner, whatever." And I love that idea of like loving where you're from, being proud of it, wanting other people to experience the joy that you get from that. I think it's great.
Yeah, man. Be proud of shit of Texas. Be proud that you're from freaking Texas. I'd be proud if I was from Texas. I'm proud of Texas and I'm not there. Be proud of California. Be proud of Oklahoma, North Carolina, like wherever you're freaking from, Wisconsin. Be proud of that. That's dope. There's heritage there. There's richness. There's culture. There's something that we have to offer to the American spirit, and that's why I'm so proud of New York. It's where I'm from. Anywhere I go in the world, people know that I am from New York. I get stopped in the street. I was in a cab in New Orleans, and the lady turns around and she's like, "You're from New York, aren't you?" I was in a freaking elevator, and I had another New Yorker there, and I didn't realize it. And he's like, "Yo, where are you from?" I'm like, "From New York." He's like, "Yeah, I know, but where in New York are you from?" Like, "I'm from the Bronx." He's like, "I'm from Brooklyn." In Canada, when I was in Canada, they immediately knew I was from New York. And I love that. I love that people know that I'm from New York. If you see me outside of this house, I'm probably wearing a Yankee cap. I'm so proud of where I love being from here. I'm so proud to be from here. I look at it as a gift that the Lord saw fit to put me here. Put me anywhere else. But this is where I came. This is where I came to this earth, to this existence, in the Bronx. And I love going out to dinner. This is the best place to go out to dinner. I go out to dinner with my family all the time. I go out to dinner with friends. I love going out to dinner. So let's do it. Come to New York. We'll go get some pizza, some real pizza, Little John. I don't know what it is that you have over where you're coming from. And somebody else, I think it was Jason Barker, was talking about Chicago pizza. You don't know what you're talking about. Okay. Come to New York. We'll get some real pizza, and we'll have a good time, and put all that bullshit aside that you're hearing. Come to New York, have a good
Yeah.
time, enjoy yourself. Okay.
Yeah. So I like that because allow yourself to have the mental exercise. And I did this myself of what would that look like, doing that. Maybe it's not what I thought it was. And I'm trying to constantly do this all the time, even though I know I have my blinders on certain issues, but I'm certainly trying to reframe these things. But you're talking about it helped me snap out of that in a way. I really think.
Oh,
Um and little John is from the city, right?
supposedly, I'm not sure. We haven't confirmed that. What's up, Little
um
John? How you doing?
yes. And everybody knows I'm not great I just don't have that Billy Riz to be like, "What's up? How you doing?" Um,
Yes, you do.
try to keep up with the chat. I'm not good at that, but I have been trying to keep track, so I'm gonna shout that out in a little bit. But I feel like there's something else that I wanted to say. Oh, as far as being proud of where you're from, yes, I agree. Like I feel very proud that I am from where I'm from. To me, the Appalachian Mountains and the foothills of North Carolina are very special.
It's
There's so
fantastic.
much cool
Right.
history here. I love it. And I love the fact that people they were survivalists, living in the mountains, coming from nothing,
Right.
and then going to get like whatever little bit of education that they could and moving to get a job and provide for their family and like the manufacturing culture. And it is still here somewhat, but it used to be absolutely huge. And that is so important for like the entire country, the manufacturing that was in all over, but especially in places like the furniture manufacturing in Hickory, North Carolina, things like that. I love that. I appreciate that, that so I love the idea of
So,
being proud of where you're from
right.
and interested in like what you're saying that you're trying to teach your kids about these historical things that matter about being home. So, let's see here. So we got a little bit of time still. So let's talk about this. As far as the things that have changed or not changed since Mamdani got into office. And I know that some of these things are like slow moving and you're not going to necessarily notice right away, whatever. But I just wanted to see if you did notice any changes, any differences, different vibes, like whatever. Talk to us a little bit about that.
No, we haven't. I haven't noticed any massive change that I'm like they were saying that we were going to be out here at 5 o'clock praying to Mecca or something. That's not clearly it's not happening. There is an optimism in the air. Most people here like the job that the kid is doing. I think he's doing a fantastic job. People mistaken that for Trump cultism, right? They'll be like, oh, we're gonna follow Mamdani like they no. As soon as Mamdani screws up, we're gonna call it out. You know, that's what we do here for the most part. So but I pretty much like what he's doing. He's getting to work. He filled up, I don't know, like over 1,000 potholes. And this was a problem here in New York. Okay.
Yes, it's
Yeah.
like broken window theory. Like
Right.
if you fix the broken windows, then it makes, like it has a huge like ripple effect, like
Yeah.
ramifications. And I think that about potholes. Go ahead, sorry.
No, you're right. So he went ahead and did a bunch of that. There's a universal pre-K 2K that he's doing, right? That he's got that done with the governor of New York. That's a big deal. A lot of people need that out here. So it's a big deal to a lot of New Yorkers, a lot of the working class here. He went after landlords so far that have been not keeping up with their buildings, or that need to do repairs that they haven't done. He's gone after all of
Yes.
that. So
Yeah.
it's very pro people, pro worker, pro the working class and pro New York. So it's he stands up with unions whenever like the nurse union here, they went on strike not too long ago, a couple of months ago, and he stood with them, stood out there with them. He actively supported them for their demands to be met, and they did. They reached a deal, and everybody went back to work. And he's been a breath of fresh air. Really, a super intelligent kid. Like, I mean, just next level, quick on his feet, incredible. What is it? An incredible orator. It's just, it's almost on Barack Obama level. Whether you like Barack Obama or not, he was crazy on the mic.
Top tier,
right?
Top tier speaker,
right? And this guy has that. There's the whole thing about taxing the rich. We'll see what happens there. I don't know that he doesn't have the power to do all of that. There's a lot of other things that need to come into play in order for that to happen. But there's optimism here in New York. People are, like I said, it's vibrant again, but it was vibrant before Mamdani came. I think he is a byproduct of what's happening here in New York, and the youth movement. There's a lot of young people here with different mindsets that value different things. And you're seeing that in the politics of New York and what people are gravitating towards. It's still dirty, but they're doing something about it. The rats, they're trying to take care of it. As much as I didn't like Eric Adams, he did something. He tried something about that. Mamdani's carrying that on, and I've seen less rats. They're still there, guys. And these guys are big. They're big rats, and I hate rats. But they're trying to do something about them. It's still dirty. I would like to see something done about that. The amount of trash that we produce here in New York is next level. It's crazy. I'm going to take video actually and said, I don't know why I haven't done this, but what I walk down the street I think it's on Tuesdays and Thursdays, man, or I forget what day, but I mean, tons of trash, and this is all the time. So it's something needs to be done about that. But like I said, people seem happy to be here. People are working. There are jobs being created. People are actively taking part in the economy. They're going to stores. They're buying stuff. They're out. They're in restaurants. Their nightlife is booming. Everything is clicking. So it feels like a comeback. It really does. It feels that way here in New York and I think for most New Yorkers that you would speak to, of course, you're going to find people that are like, oh no, it's the worst. It's over. Everything's falling apart. But for the most part, I think people are generally happy with the city and where it's going.
Great. I am really happy about that. And I'm happy that we had this discussion because I think that it can kind of, again, give people something to think about, challenge where we're at a little bit in a way. And it kind of does like just hype me up a little bit for the United States. Like, I wish we had more of that. I wish that we had more of the positivity, more of us being happy about where we're from and what's happening here. And I don't know, maybe that's still possible.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know, but I think that you have brought some optimism and some interesting food for thought for people to think about. And I think people in the chat like the conversation. Again, I'm sorry, everybody, that I don't chime in as much as I normally do, but I'm so happy to have you all here. And I'm going to give them a quick shout. We had Little John, Do Not Obey, Doc Spoiler, Sweets, Guard, SMU Husky, Mr. Helm, tip of that, Levi, Skunk Hollow Rose Gardens, Providence Winds, Salcedo Paranormal, Bride Mac, Radio Sack, Nostradamus. And we also had Jason Barker. I don't know if I said that. And if I missed anybody, I see Taylor Saunders there. If I missed anybody, I truly apologize. I try to hit everybody. But anyway, Billy, I want to thank you so much for your time. You're a very busy person. You have a lot of irons in the fire. I know that. But I really appreciate you taking the time out to talk to me today and having a conversation a little bit different. But I hope that people find it.
Fun. It was fun.
interesting and
Right.
enlightening. Yeah, it was good. And I will say that if you follow Billy Ray's work, then maybe it gives you a little bit more information because he talks about that a lot, right? But you don't usually have time to really kind of unpack the whole thing and expound on the whole thing and let us know where you're at with Mom Donnie, changes that you're seeing, all this good stuff. So I really have enjoyed it and I truly appreciate your time. Now, really quick before we go, we still got a couple minutes for my time frame that you allowed me. So, why don't you tell us about what you got coming up this week, this weekend, and then maybe a little bit about your conversation with Angry Tiger coming up?
Well, first of all, I want to address Guard Goldsmith in the chat. I love Guard Goldsmith. That's my guy. But I got to tell you, it was good to see the Boston Celtics bounced out of the playoffs. Bon voyage, good riddance to bad rubbish. The Red Sox aren't welcomed here in New York City. Just giving you a heads up. You can be proud to be from anywhere in the nation, just not Boston, Massachusetts. Okay, so that's out. We are sworn enemies, Boston and New York. So I just it's programmed in my DNA. Guard, I'm sorry, I love you. This week, what we got America Unplugged, right at 12 p.m. Eastern, and I plan on doing Gorilla Underground Sunday at 7. I'm going to talk a little bit on what we were talking about in essence today. With Megan Kelly said something. I mean, Megan Kelly says a lot of dumb shit, but she said some next level dumb shit that I was like, oh, I have to talk about that, and maybe I'll do an entire show on this. I forgot who she was talking to. I think it was Stephen A. Smith, who's another class A dumbass. And and she was saying that she's been criticizing Trump a lot recently, but she said she would still vote for him, and she said that she would still endorse him because he took care of the borders and the transsexuals. It's like, okay, all right, so then we know where your priorities are. Pedophilia is okay as long as it's not coming from a transsexual. Very cool. It was one of the dumbest things I've ever heard in my life, and I can't believe this woman gets paid to give her opinion. Millions and millions of dollars. So I'm going to talk about that, and then with Tiger, we're going to talk about a little bit like of what we did here too. Tiger wanted to dissect the anatomy of a conspiracy theory and really talk about the alternative media. And listen, that's not going to be for the faint of heart. That's not going to be for the MAGA snowflakes or the conspiracy theories, the conspiracy normies. If you're a conspiracy normie, you want to tune in, great, and be ready for it, and have your ears open, and you want to challenge us on stuff, great. But if you get easily triggered, it's not going to be the show for you. It's just not,
Yeah.
So go ahead, Ashley. What's up?
I was just going to say I'm here for it. This is something that I've really been pondering a lot. Probably influenced quite a bit by you, but is having my thought process challenged and being okay with that.
Right.
I think personally for me, that's a good skill to have, and it allows me to reflect and find out where I really stand on something, or sometimes to just say I don't know. I do
Right.
not know. I feel like there's a lot of stuff happening as far as, like what John Brissom talks about a lot, fifth generation warfare, and I simply do not know. And that's what I'm just trying to like you said this, the idea of being manipulated. I am trying to see where I think I am manipulated, and maybe I still don't know. Maybe like that's just how it goes. But I'm trying to use that reflection as a way to see where I stand. And this is something that maybe we can get into another time, but as far as like conspiracy theory and like the globalist and things like that, right? I still personally I feel like that is 100% a factor. But I'm willing to talk to you about it, hear what you think, and if we don't agree, like that's okay. We don't have to agree. But
Right.
I like having my thought processes around some of this stuff challenged. I think it's
I
good.
wish more people were like you. Because you've told me on several occasions that you disagree with me. It's not an issue. We've never had an issue, but other people get triggered immediately by the sound of my voice. Like, oh, there goes Billy again. Oh my, or whenever I go on Wheezy's show or you know, um, what was it? What was it? Oh yeah. Oh, here goes Billy with his need for proof. Here goes Billy talking about proof again. The fuck? Well, am I? So I mean, so I wish more people were like you when it came to this, and I think we'd be a lot better off. I am very optimistic for you in when it comes to all of this, because you're a sharp one. You're not, I don't see you residing in these areas for too much longer. I don't know how many years it'll be, but that's not a long time. I spent 15, and it was a decline. Like the last 4 years were declining and declining and declining until it happened. But I think you'll get out of it a lot quicker than I did. And you'll probably have very different ideas. You probably arrive somewhere very different than where I arrived, but you won't be stuck. You're already not stuck. You're already figuring it out. You're already like, you know what? I don't want to be manipulated, and I don't want to have my life stopped because of some nonsense I heard from some podcaster that was saying some shit. Right. And that's where we
100%.
all should be. And then every time I say something, I mean it, but it comes from the heart. It doesn't come from a place of hate. Sometimes when I say shit about Trump, right? But other than that,
Right.
right? It doesn't come from a place of hate. It comes from a place of, like just caring. I care. I want everybody to get out of this. I want everybody to realize that most of this stuff is just nonsense. Not all of it, but most of it. So I'm just like, so we'll talk about it with Angry Tiger.
Yeah.
But that's just not going to be the introductory phase. That's what I'm trying to turn the Gorilla Underground into. It's like introductory out of the rabbit hole. Like, you're out of the rabbit hole. Here's what you need to know type shit. What we're going to do over at Tiger is not that. These are that's going to be several levels out of there. And it's we're probably not going to be nice. Tiger and I tend to feed off each other sometimes, and that's not a good recipe. So, but come tune in. I'd love to have you.
For sure. And I'm sure that a lot of people here will. And I also wanted to say earlier when we were discussing the city that Dustin Helm did chime in, and he said he blamed Biggie Smalls. So that's something that we can talk about at a later time.
Dustin's a fool. Yo, what's up, Dustin? How you doing?
Also, I had Western Civilization over on YouTube, and Will to Box on another channel. So I do think that I got everybody. Dad guy Patrick maybe is here as well. Yes, I saw that. So anyway, everybody, thank you so much for being here. I promise you that I wonder why you show up. I literally do, but I thank you so much. And I do not take you taking the time to chime in the chat or whatever, share the show, repost, any of those things that you do to support me. Like I do not take that stuff lightly. I truly appreciate it so much. And just can't say thank you enough. And anybody that may listen later, thank you as well. Billy, thank you so much for being an awesome friend, somebody that I love to harass about your coffee intake or lack thereof.
Right.
And thank you so much for taking the time to come on here and chat with me. I truly appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor to speak and be on your show. And everybody in the chat, excuse me, needs to realize that you should be taking advantage of the fact that Ashley can read your comments right now, because there's going to come a time where there's going to be way too many people in that chat, and she's not going to be able to point you out. So enjoy it while you got in early. So enjoy it while you have it before it spirals out of control. And it's very possible, Ashley. So I wish you the best, of course. And I'll probably text you when we get out of here.
Okay. Sounds good. I will look forward to it. And thanks again, everybody. Appreciate you so much. Big hugs. I'll talk to you
Later.
later.
Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.